Now, while we're on the subject of e-collars, now's a really good time to bring up the two different kinds of collar pressure. They are direct pressure and indirect pressure. And basically, direct pressure is just that. It's a correction that's made with the collar in direct response to an undesired behavior. For instance, you're sitting in the duck blind, the duck comes in, your buddy raises up to shoot, your dog starts to break, you grab the transmitter and you rain down with a continuous correction on the dog as he starts to leave. Well, that's a direct pressure correction. He put himself in motion, you smacked him down with the e-collar. And there are places in training where direct pressure is the proper application. However, in advanced training of retrievers, most of the time we're going to use indirect pressure. Now, indirect pressure is a much more complicated concept, and the best way that I know to explain it is to say that an indirect pressure correction is a correction that we give on a known command that we feel we will get a good stable response for in response to a negative action by the dog just prior to that. And it's pretty hard to understand indirect pressure just talking about it. So the best thing that we can do right now is let's break from here, let's move over to the pond, let's get a couple of dogs out, and let's take a look at indirect pressure in a practical application. Come on, Alan, go pitch it up. We've got our dummies placed out there. Now let's get a dog out. Let's run that blind. All right, we're fixing to continue our discussion of indirect pressure. And what we've done here is we've set up a shoreline water blind. And you can see over on the far shore, probably about 125 yards away, I've set out a few orange dummies and I've marked them with an orange ribbon. So we can see where we're sending the dog to. Now, my anticipation with Pap here, because Pap is a young dog, and even though he's been through the swim by and he's been de-cheated, this is a pretty big water blind, and we've got the factor of the wind blowing Pap into the shoreline here. So I'm hoping that his desire to get dry, along with the fact that we've had some cold nights and the water temperature has started to drop, and the factor of the wind pushing him to shore, I'm hoping that all those factors come together and tempt Pap and try to make him get out on the bank. And if he does so, then we're going to use an indirect pressure correction. Here's the way it's going to work. Let's say Pap is swimming along that shoreline and he decides that it's time for him to get out on the beach. The wind's pushing him over there, it's been a long swim and he's cold, he's ready to get out. Direct pressure in this instance would be, for example, if Pap goes and he hits the land, and as soon as he hits the land, I immediately give him a collar correction. That's direct pressure. It is directly in response to him getting out of the water and beaching on the shoreline. Now, will direct pressure work effectively in this situation to keep a dog from getting on the shore? Yeah, it certainly can. But it can also have a lot of negative outcomes, and that's why we use direct pressure as little as possible. In our scenario here, if Pap gets out and he gets on the beach, and as soon as his feet hit dry ground, I shock him, he could turn around and in the future say, hey, I'm not willing to get back out on the bank because doggone it, when I got out on the bank before, as soon as my feet got dry, that ground gets awfully hot. So one of the negative or adverse effects to direct pressure in this situation is that we could create a retriever that once he gets in the water, he doesn't have the confidence to get out because he's scared to get on dry land. A better alternative in this situation would be to take Pap here and to use indirect pressure to correct him. And that's what we're going to do today, and hopefully this is going to work out the way we want it to. In our scenario today, instead of directly burning him if he gets out on the land, instead, I'm going to give him a correction on a known command. In this situation, I'm going to let him get dry, I'm going to blow a sit whistle, and I'm going to nick or use momentary stimulation to get this dog to sit, and then I'm going to cast him off the bank and back into the water. there you see he's making the decision to try to get close to the bank. But he's still thinking about it, so we're going to try to help him out here. Bark! There we go. Dick, see that head shake? Not what we wanted. But he did put forth effort, so there won't be any correction here. Here. Square him up. Bingo. Good catch. Very nice. Again, we gave one indirect pressure correction. When he hit the bank, he thought about it. He didn't really make a good decision, but he didn't make a bad one either. And he did put forth effort. So when he kind of stalled out there, we went on and blew the whistle, and we gave him the cast without any correction at all. And he put forth even more effort, and he took it nicely. It's a really nice job right there by this dog. Come on, baby. Now here again, you saw this dog give us a little pop there in the water. As soon as he turned around, I gave a direct pressure. He spun, I just yelled back and burned. That was a direct pressure. Very appropriate spot for direct. We don't want him to turn around. We want him to think if he turns around during a blind, there'll be a bad response. Direct pressure. In that case, if I'd blown the whistle, I would have actually been rewarding the bad behavior. Giving an indirect pressure correction for that kind of pop is actually rewarding him, because he's turning because he wants to sit. You blow the sit whistle and sit him. Even if you give a nick at that point and then cast, still doesn't have the effect of direct pressure. However, the bank, right there, we flip sides. Now we don't need direct, we need indirect, and we got some really good stuff out of it. Because of the pop, as I was saying, it is an indication that he lacks a little confidence in water blinds. In this situation, more than likely, he saw the bank and he just didn't want to make a bad decision. So he thought, hey, I'll look for some instruction, because over there could be bad on the bank, but dang, I don't want to swim out in the middle of this lake either. So, that wasn't a bad pop. It was just one that indicated that he lacks confidence. So once again, just like we did with the other dog, Pap, we're going to repeat this blind to give him a little confidence, and now it's going to be a pattern blind. As the dogs advance in training, we quit repeating things. Pattern blinds have their place early in training, but we don't want to teach them to go back to old falls. So we're not going to continue this process, but today with a young dog here, this is worth repeating. Come on, buddy. Heel. Good. Wag that tail. That's what I want to see. Sit. Sit. Got another dead bird out there. Back! Looking at a beautiful initial line here. As you can see, if anything, he's a little bit too wet. He learned from the prior blind. He knows he can get close to that bank without it getting in trouble as long as he doesn't get on it. And we're probably about to see this dog either line this blind or maybe have one whistle. Remember, we've got some serious factors here. He's been in some very cold water for a while. And he's got the wind pushing him to bank. And of course, he's just got the natural desire to be dry, because that's a faster and easier route. In this case, we're taking a look at a dog that's doing everything right and making the right decisions. This is also a really good example of how superior indirect pressure is to direct pressure. Had that dog got out and we directly burned him, more than likely, instead of seeing this beautiful tight line on this blind, more than likely, instead of that, we'd have seen the dog flare way out into the lake, because he'd have said, hey, that's hot and bad over there, and I don't want anything to do with that piece of ground. Instead, you couldn't pop a chalk line any straighter than the line he's taken to this blind, so he's done a really, really good job. Okay.